Welcome back to the show. This is Randy Dyck here on the Return on Life podcast, where hey, it's not always about the ROI, but the ROI does certainly help with the ROL, the return on life. And today's guest really brings the ROL to so many people, his clients, his customers. And we're going to dive deep into his business, how he really does bring return on life to his customers and clients, which is mostly real estate agents, property managers, and purchasers. So we'll dive deep into that. But my guest today is Thomas Beattie, and he is the CEO of OctoAI Technology and the man behind the Eli Report. So, what does Eli Report mean? Well, we're going to get into that. So, welcome here, Thomas. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
Thanks, Randy. Glad to be here.
Right on. Well, I'm going to dive into this one question that I've always had. And I thought, okay, where is Thomas from? Because we connected over a coffee and a lunch, and I was going, this guy must be from the UK, but that's not true, is it?
No, I'm actually born and raised in the Vancouver area, although I did move to the UK in my mid-20s for 7 years.
Okay. So that's where you picked up a little bit of an accent because I thought, okay, this guy is really from the UK, but here we are. We're all Canadians. We're all
Wonderful.
Canadians, eh? Well, let's dive deep into what you do at Okta. What is Okta? What is the Eli Report? And how do you save real estate agents gobs of time?
Well, that's really a great question. We started in 2018 over a discussion about how when you bought a used car, you got a report of its history, but when you bought a
Hmm.
condo, you got hundreds of pages of PDFs. And we thought that for such a significant purchase, there had to be a better way to understand what really mattered about the communities that you were looking at. Whether you're doing that as a buyer, whether you're doing that as a realtor, whether you're serving them as a property manager, or as another stakeholder. And that's what led to us building Eli Report. Eli stands for every little item because we try and help you understand every little item about your condo. And we've now delivered over 25,000 of those reports over the past nearly 5 years, saving agents and buyers gobs of time and making sure that they're much better informed about their communities.
That's incredible. 25,000 reports. Wow.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't know the acronym and what it meant. So that's really cool. I love that. I love that. Um, and so who was the brains or who was the inspiration behind building this? Did you have people come to you and say, "Gosh, Thomas, we need this," or did you just go, one day I think I can do this?
I love hearing stories about building, and for me, a bunch of my career focus has been around financial literacy. So, when the several of us that founded OctoAI got together, there were personal stories about having moved into a condo and being hit with a special assessment. There were stories about being property management space and understanding that a lot of people didn't really understand the rules about being in their community or the upcoming issues that were critical to that community's physical health. For me, it was really about trying to convey what mattered and give that perspective. So it's a 0 to 1 tool. If you live in a community, you probably know it inside out. What you don't know is how you compare to others, and we're now working on that angle as well.
Hmm. I love that. How you compare to others. Yeah, that's a really cool. When will you have that tool up and operating?
It's in the pilot phase now. It's called an annual benchmark report, and for anyone that's living in a multifamily community, they're able to jump in, upload their documents, and we'll do the hard work of finding the communities most similar to it across their province or jurisdiction. Generally, 10 to 30 other buildings built at around the same time with many of the same characteristics. And it's going to be really powerful. So, yeah, try it out now. It's still very much in the development phase, but it's ready for testing.
Wow, that is going to be an incredible benchmark test. It's now going to really elevate some buildings, I would think, and bring value to them. And it might just soften the value in some of the others. That's interesting. That's really cool.
We've had
Uh,
that question a lot, even about Eli Report from the very beginning. And I want to take it back 30 years to the first originations of Carfax, because some people thought that Carfax was going to do the same thing. Oh, you're going to wreck the value of my car because it's a lemon.
mm,
But it was actually those first dealerships that adopted it, on put the Carfax report on every car that built trust and transparency with their customer base. Maybe they lost a bit of money on that lemon, but they were transparent with their buyers. That buyer paid a fair price, and they came back for the next car, which hopefully was a nicer one on the lot. And we're helping realtors do that now. I mean, having delivered 25,000 of them, initially I said we never killed a deal. We have, but for good reasons. And a couple of those came to light just this year.
Hmm. Interesting. And you are in what provinces, states?
All provinces and states. We do documents that are in English, so Quebec is the unknown for us at this point. But language translation tools are pretty good, and that's a market I'm sure we'll enter in the near future.
Fantastic, fantastic. Scaling is a buzzword. Scale, scale, scale. How have you been able to scale your business, and what strategies have you used for the Eli Report? Because to be in all provinces except Quebec and then all states is quite a feat in itself.
It is, and scaling is difficult. I now this is my second startup, and scaling is always hard. In this case, a lot of it has been through word of mouth, and since we didn't have a physical presence on the ground anywhere else, a lot of the growth has come from us doing proactive outreach to those that can save the most by using a tool like ours. So, that's what this is all about, right? Return on life.
Hmm. Awesome, awesome. And of course, AI is the next biggest buzzword, or maybe it is the biggest buzzword today. How is AI fitting into your business, and how does that enable you to do more with less time and bring better value or more value?
Yeah, AI is amazing. We started in 2018, and it wasn't what it is now, I can assure you. Our focus has not been generative AI, although we do now layer on GPT technology to summarize results for our users. It was extractive, and we try and pull everything that matters out of a building's documents using AI. All of the unstructured data is pulled out without human intervention, but we do have proprietary models that we've built and trained and continue to update to ensure that those results remain relevant. Um, and in AI speak, we're high recall, low precision because we want to catch everything, even if that means we pick up something that's less important.
And so, do you have a lot of, is there a lot of human touch in this process as well? Or once you've loaded the address, it just takes off and builds the report, or is there a
For our
spacing check or
users,
two? Or
enter an address, drag and drop the documents, or give us a link to the documents, and you're done. You'll get your report within anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes.
Hmm.
It is quick and hands off. Behind the scenes, we have these great AI tools for unstructured data. But like every great startup that says everything's easy and automated, I can assure you it is not. We're up to a team of 12. Five of them are admins. They are checking the tabular data on every building and every report that goes out. And that means reconciling building budgets, looking at their insurance policy terms, and where available, looking at the reserve fund study or depreciation report to reconcile that 30-year capital forecast. And it's a lot of work. So
Hmm.
yes, we are technology enabled. It is efficient, but it definitely takes the dedicated attention of humans combined with AI to get us to that plus 99% accuracy across all of the data that we prepare and provide.
Hmm. Is there any new technology trends that are coming that maybe the majority of the listeners don't know about that you're because you're cutting edge. You're out in front of a lot of this. Is there something new coming along that you can share with the listener?
It just gets more and more powerful, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that you could go from asking and having a kind of tailored response to things to being able to prompt a few words and have it produce a video for you is really mind blowing.
Mhm.
The realtor audience has been using AI quite effectively over the past couple of years to show what an occupied building and home may look like if you put in some modern furnishings, because a lot of people who are selling, whether they're downsizing or changing
Mhm.
stages of life, haven't put that capital into their homes, haven't put in the sort of modern touches. And although it can feel deceptive if you don't know you're looking at something that's been enhanced, being able to picture yourself in a home is a huge part of the buying and selling process, as you and the agents know so well. And AI is a really great tool for that. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't say it's new, but certainly it's seeing greater adoption. And I think that there's going to be continued developments in that space that add value.
Yeah. I think that the real estate industry itself is very fast moving, fast pace with technology. And it's really because every agent is really a creative business individual, an entrepreneur that just keeps driving and driving and driving to, out sell, outwit, outsmart the next real estate agent, which is just really fueling a ton of creativity. And in fact, our CEO of eXp Realty, Glenn Sanford, I know was in a very special room with CEOs of major corps from all over the world. And he was blown away by how advanced the real estate industry is compared to most industries when it comes to AI. Like it
You're
was
right.
staggering how, like, many of the CEOs didn't even, what's this thing called chat? What chat? What? So, I think that's a really cool thing about real estate because every individual, every realtor is really driving the creativity of this business.
And they've got so much to gain.
Mm.
Not everyone is a wordsmith. And when you're writing a listing description, being able to throw it into something that can help craft a slightly more polished message, I think is really cool. And it takes seconds. You can use GPT. There's a tool called Listings AI. There's just a lot of different ways that you can take your own phrasing and your own wording and elevate that to something that's got a great marketing slant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so funny because I do remember so many, I've coached and mentored so many agents in my long my short long career that that has always been something that's come up. Oh man, I hate doing the description, the property description, and for me it was never I never struggled with it, but I just remember hearing that so much.
Yeah, I mean, it always used to just be about those code words, right?
Yeah.
You describe something as being cozy, or you know what they are. They're great words that are used traditionally by agents, but these tools are great.
Yes, they are. What do you see as far as a trend? Because you see we've done 25,000 reports. What is the trend when it comes to strata properties that we should be aware of as a agent, a buyer, a seller? What are some of the trends that you're seeing over and over again that we should really pay attention to?
One of the things that affects strata, which is a beautiful term used only in British Columbia and Australia, as opposed to condo or condo corporation, condo association, or homeowners association across the rest of North America, is that BC has an interesting rule for funding future capital projects. And we've based it on the operating budget. You have to put away at least 10%.
Right.
But what we see over and over and over again is how poorly funded stratas are for these upcoming capital projects and what that
Mhm.
means for special levies. Just last week, I responded to a post online indicating that this year alone, about 100,000 owners of strata in BC were faced with a special levy. Next year, the number is going to be closer to 140,000. It is a huge issue and something that we're trying to inform everyone a bit more about with every Eli report that we deliver.
And so you're saying that the special levy is unique to British Columbia and Australia, nowhere else?
The term strat is unique to us. Our approach to funding upcoming capital projects is different from Ontario, where they need to be fully funded. So, at least every year in Ontario, they do a reserve fund study that compares what needs to be done with the amount of money they have in the bank and make sure they're on track to be able to pay for it. In BC, we don't look at it that way. We require you to put some money aside, but we don't really require you to fund your future projects at all.
Hmm.
So when it comes time to do the roof, if your fund has $400,000 in it, and it's a $1.2 million project, $800,000 is a cash call, a special levy to the
Hmm.
owners of that strata in accordance with their unit entitlement, or their share of the common pie.
Hmm.
And on average, these special assessments are on the order of magnitude of $7,500 a year. If you're one of the lucky ones that gets called, some of them are hundreds of dollars, and some of them are hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen some of those in your career.
Many, many. Yeah. Wow. Hey, well, that's very insightful. Thank you for sharing about the business and what's happening there. Let's move on. Let's move on to another topic, the underdog topic. And if you're enjoying this and you think you're getting great value out of this as a listener, please hit the subscribe button at the bottom of that page. We would love you to do that. We love subscribers. So let's talk a little bit about this thing called the underdog. And I know you've experienced a little bit of that somewhere along the way in your life. When you hear underdog, what comes to your mind? What do you think of when you hear underdog, Thomas?
Well, I think it's somebody that's got no choice but to be scrappy. They've really got to dig in and work hard. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've had a good start. I started my career in finance. I earned good money. I got great experience. I feel like I've been very fortunate. I don't feel like I've always been an underdog, but when you do get onto the startup side of the field, you are an underdog. You're competing against those with greater capital, greater tools, more manpower.
Mhm.
You've got to come up with something unique, and you really do have to be your own best spokesperson, and that's something that I've been reticent to do, and I need to do more of it. So.
I really appreciate that perspective because, many people when they hear underdog, they think of, their situation where they've either, had to overcome some big obstacle or, life didn't give them the best opportunity, whatever it may be. But I love that you share about business and really every startup is a underdog in a big, big way, undercapitalized, somebody else is ahead of you. So I really appreciate that perspective. And I think that is, Jeff Bezos. I remember saying, we always think like we're a startup at Amazon. If we think like we're a startup, we'll always have a good year because we're scrappy, we're fighting, we're doing this, we're doing that just to like survive. So I really appreciate that perspective. Um, is there been any personal underdog moments in your life?
Um, I think everyone has their own underdog stories and moments. There's always been some time in your life where things have not gone the way that you thought they might,
Hmm.
and we've all had our own surprises and our own challenges. I'm not unique in that respect. In my early 30s, I had cancer, and
Mm.
that caused a change of mindset and a change of trajectory, if you will. Making slightly different choices about my priorities and I guess about what I wanted to do with my time.
It's interesting. We life brings us things that we're not expecting, that we don't want, that we wish not on anybody, not even our enemy at times. And yet, those are the things that have really probably changed a lot of perspective in a positive way. I mean, I've got many of those. I'm a serial underdog. And, I'm sure that, cancer really makes you really think everything, prioritize everything. So, yeah, I could see how that really is,
I was lucky.
a
Mine
change
was
agent.
easily cured, and I'm back on track, and I'm still here. So that's all good. I mean, we talk about these underdog moments in our lives, and I've shared mine. But what about yours, Randy? I mean, I know that you had your first kid in your mid-20s, and then you became a realtor. But what was your underdog moment?
Oh, well, I think many of our listeners know this, but if not, I've had many, many of the underdog moments. My biggest underdog moment, my first and biggest was when I broke my neck at 14 and woke up paralyzed and had to spend months in a hospital and a year to kind of learn how to walk and do all the things again. So that was my
That's
first.
amazing. I mean, in your teens like that. I mean, it's lucky you were young.
Yeah, I mean that was the really great part. It was 14, so I had a lot of pea and vinegar in my veins to find a new way to make it all work again, and I did. So that was the first one. Number two would have been flunking grade 12. That was my second underdog moment. And so they've just kept coming. But I just so admire the underdog within. And I believe everybody has the underdog DNA within them, the spirit within them. And even if they think they don't, they do. Because there's been a moment somewhere in their life that it didn't work out and they had to work extra hard, scrap a little bit harder, fight for whatever they thought was theirs and they deserved. So the underdog spirit is alive and well. And gosh, Hollywood makes the best movies when they're talking about the underdog.
That's true.
The
That's true.
best movies always are an underdog theme, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I think the underdog theme is alive and well. And I'm just messing around with it because I'm working on a book, of course, about the underdog DNA. And one of the things I think of, the 23andMe. I don't know if you've done 23andMe or done an analysis on where you're from and who you are and all that. But I thought maybe there's a 24th chromosome called the DNA, the underdog DNA chromosome.
You have to be wired different for sure. So there must be. It's that little extra special something that makes you want to get out there and build.
Hmm. I think we can look at the immigrant mentality and do a parallel with that. The way that you see an immigrant come to a new country and how they just fight, scrap, do whatever they have to do, work three, four jobs in some cases just to get by. That truly is a parallel between the underdog DNA, the spirit of the underdog, and an immigrant mindset
Absolutely.
mentality.
I
Wow.
heard a story recently from a young man in Toronto who had a harrowing journey to get here and now works in construction, is doing some training because he knows he won't be able to do that forever, given how physical of a job it is. And you're right, that mentality is something that I think you can draw a lot of inspiration from. How's this book coming, Randy? When can we expect it?
Well, I'm deep into it. I'm connecting with my publisher here again at the end of December here, and we're gonna like crank through it some more and hopefully have this up and ready to be published in February, March. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks for asking about that. Well, I'm gonna have to, make sure that you get a signed copy for asking me about the underdog DNA.
That's good. It'll be on my bookshelf with some of my favorites. I think of books I've enjoyed and wish I read when I was younger. One of them is Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss,
Oh,
on just understanding negotiation and what matters to people, and how, as a young person you can kind of frame better some of the choices that you make in those early stages of your life and of your career, on the facet of having a mutual win, but not just trying to move towards that splitting the difference. I thought
yeah.
it was a great read.
It is a great read, and the seven human behaviors that Chris walks through in that book is essential for understanding how we not manipulate, but help our clients in real estate understand how to navigate through, the decision making of listing, selling, the deal, whatever it is. But if we as agents really understand those human behaviors, then we can just help frame it for the client so much more, so much easier for them to process. So those are really important for us to understand as agents. And that's part of actually my one of my pieces, my modules in my coaching program. Actually, I do walk through Chris's seven human behaviors and how we can use those to help our clients get what they really
That's
want.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I get asked a lot about, oh, well, what's the future of being a real estate agent, and how
Mm.
is technology or AI going to change that? And I think it's going to enhance it. I think you've got that human connection, you've got this understanding, it's the expertise that comes with knowing. And that is something that agents will continue to have and to build and to grow. Sure, access to more information, it's democratized, there's more data out there. I think that that's fantastic. I'd like to think that we're playing a small part in bringing some of that data out there. But it's the relationship that really matters and your ability to deliver that expertise and that knowledge.
Yes. Amen on that. Well, let's move on to the next topic here. And again, I just want to remind you to subscribe. I hope that was a great section of learning for you. And so please hit that subscribe button. We're going to move into mindset and performance. Mindset and performance. And of course, I mean, that's always a hot topic. How does mindset and performance impact you, Thomas? And do you have any rituals, daily rituals, morning rituals that help you set up for the day when it comes to mindset and performance?
I mean, I'm fueled by coffee, like most good startups, I guess. But I don't have a lot of rituals. I think it's mostly about dedication. I have goals. I want to see them achieved. I work as hard as I can. Not always as efficiently as I know I need to, but the day is long, and I cram as much into it as I can. And I just see that as being the main driving force. Have those goals.
Mm, awesome. And of course, as a startup and putting all that energy in, work-life balance must not always be as easy as it appears, but I think you make it look pretty easy.
I'm glad it looks that way to somebody. We all have scarce resource in the form of
Mhm.
time, right, Randy? I mean, this is the one thing that nobody gets more of. So we've got to use it in the ways that we want to. And I can say confidently that the switch to a startup was a great return on life for me because
Mm,
I was able to choose my hours. And I think realtors don't have as much control over that. They're kind of working when their clients are able to deal with them. So they lose weekends. They lose time in the evenings. And I'm able to in this career, and I wouldn't have been able to if I'd stayed in investment banking, spend, the morning or the dinner hour with my family. And that part I have control over.
yeah.
I then go back to work at night and often don't finish until late. But I have that ability to control my time to a limited extent, and I get to prioritize the things that matter to me and to matter to my family. So that's important.
I love that. That is the one commodity that everybody has the same ownership of. The billionaire to the homeless on the street. It is time. Nobody gets more of it, nobody gets less of it. But we as any human being can bend time. We can control how we use our time and actually bend it, in my opinion. But that's my thinking of it, and how we use it effectively or ineffectively. And so I appreciate you sharing how you've found more time in the day, yet you could continue to keep balance in your life, your family, your children, and all that. So that's really, really
I
great.
will say that there are some of your guests that have proven to be far more effective with their time management than me. I think it might have been Gogo who indicated just how relentless she was about controlling her time, and I do not do that. I pour my time into whatever I'm passionate about. But some of your guests have been far better at that than me.
Well, hey, we're all on this racetrack together. And at some point we catch up to one another, and some point, they leave us in the dust, but it's all about just, being on the race of life, the racetrack
Yeah,
of life. So that's good.
true.
Growth and learning. Do you have any significant books that have kind of given you the North Star on all things, or is a great book that you go, man, I really need to share that book with the listeners?
That never split the difference was the most important one for me. I
Okay.
found that one to be really impactful. I have a bookshelf full of books that I would love to read if I can find some time. But I haven't been able to prioritize that, and I have read a couple of novels just for the sake of it on recent vacations because I feel like I've lost a lot of the time that I used to dedicate towards reading. And
Mm.
yeah.
Right on. I'm going to just touch on that book a little bit because I think that is a really important book. Never split the difference. Yeah, this is a common thing that happens in real estate. Well, we just split the difference. But I'm going to share with the listeners, many of you are realtors, please, please try never to split the difference, because what you're doing when you're splitting the difference is that your client has only two options or two feelings after you've done that. Hmm, we had to split the difference, but we got the deal done. Or why did we have to split the difference? I didn't think we needed to split the difference. So it's a difficult process for them to be excited about, which means if they're not thrilled and excited about it, the chances of you getting a referral are far less. So I'm going to encourage
That's a
you,
great point.
never split the difference if you can. Be the negotiator that you were hired to be, and don't
I
split the.
will admit my own experience that we did not split the difference. We came down and in an interesting step when I was negotiating the purchase of my current home.
Mm-hmm.
And we did get to a point where there needed to be a gap that was filled. And in the interest of preserving my marriage, because it had gone back several times, we acquiesced and I left a little on the table. I know I did it, but it was for a good reason. So
Well, happy house, happy spouse, or happy spouse, happy house, I guess is the way it says is meant to be. So yeah, sometimes we do things just to make it all work. Make it all work.
absolutely.
Speaking of making it all work, what about mental fitness? What's your fitness routine like? Do you have a fitness routine?
Oh, I wish I had a fitness routine. I try and get out and play with my son. He's 11 whenever we can. So we'll play some street hockey when the weather's good. That's his sport and his thing. So now I don't only just take him to his hockey games, but he's old enough to ref the younger kids. So
Mm.
now I take him and watch other kids play hockey too. My wife and I laugh about how that's evolved and changed. But no, I mean that's my relaxation. When the weather's not so good, he's young. He likes to get me on, and we'll play some Rocket League and Minecraft together. So we occupy our hours with fun and games.
Right on, right on. Did you play hockey as a kid?
Only recreationally. I learned a bit late. I broke my front teeth learning how to ice skate. I tell people it was a hockey injury. It really wasn't. I needed a little help there. But I'm not a great hockey player, but boy, I love the game. It's fun.
Right on. I have fake chicklets as well,
Fantastic.
from hockey, of course, just like you. We're hockey players.
Yeah, hockey injury.
Yes, hockey injuries, right?
Uh,
Uh, hey, well, subscribe to this podcast today. Click that button and enjoy all of the podcasts. Never miss one podcast by subscribing. Let's move on to return on life, which is really what this podcast is all about. And
Absolutely.
just a bit of background on that. I chased the ROI year after year after year, which was fantastic. But at some point, you just realize that there's something more than money, which was life. And so that's where I coined the return on life. And then this podcast came out of that. So when you hear return on life, Thomas, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
I mean, for me, it means being as productive as you can with the time that you've got. It
Mm.
means choosing to dedicate the time that you can towards the things that are most important to you while still fulfilling your obligations as a, member of society. You do your work, you pay your bills, you pay your taxes, you spend the time you can with your family, and if you're lucky enough along the way, you're working on something that you're passionate about and that you care about. And in my case, I am. So I have that sense a good return on life. Time management is something I'll still work on.
Hmm. But you make a great point there. When I ask that question, often people go to Zen mode. They go to the beach, sitting on the beach with a Mai Tai. That is what they think of when they hear return on life. But what you shared was no, I'm in a passion lane that I love, and it could include work. It could include work and a busy, busy schedule, but I'm getting so much out of this time in life that it is super valuable. And I've often said this, guys, return on life can mean everything from, you're all in on your startup and you're actually pounding in 16 to 18 hours a day to, yeah, sitting on the beach with a Mai Tai, because it is different for everyone. So I really appreciate your response to that.
It
Um,
is. Yeah, I mean, there's that balance though. We are fortunate enough to take some time when we can to go on a vacation. This year it was Italy. Next year it'll be Japan. We
Mm.
value those experiences and times, and it adds obviously to our lives, and it enriches the life and experiences of our son. So that's something that I do value absolutely.
That's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that I've done in my life, and I've always encouraged everybody that I coach and mentor, is to actually build out your calendar. Here we are in the month of December. Build out your calendar already for next year and put all the most important things on the calendar, which is a trip with your family. That's pretty important stuff.
Absolutely.
Pay for that trip today. So you can't wiggle your way out of that deal with your family and out of that trip. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. That's what you do. And you've got a trip planned to Japan. That's awesome. I want to go to
It
Japan.
is awesome. I do love that. I will say that I've been not great with a lot of things, but not canceling has been a core part of my career and my life choices.
Mm,
I think there's been only a couple of times that I've ever had to pull out of a short trip or something like that for work, and I've been through careers and spaces where that is not very common. I've worked with people who always prioritized work over everything else, and
mm,
they financially did very well for themselves, and I hope that they've enjoyed the fruits of that labor. But I always think that there is an importance to having some balance, and I encourage every one of our employees and team members to get out there and do the same. Book your time off, spend that time, do something, recharge. It'll give you that energy that you need to come back enthusiastic and willing to bring something to the table yourself as you're back at work.
yeah. We need to really press this point. Um, you're an entrepreneur, you're a realtor, you're a business owner. Do not bail on that trip that is planned. That is so important for your sanity to recharge your batteries, the emotional piece, the creativity that comes out of getting away from work is incredible. So this is really about return on life, but it's also about bringing life to your business, whatever your business is. So super important. Great share, great share. Um, Legacy, family, return on life. How do you see that all playing out for you? And do you ever do long-term goal planning? Gino Wickman, which is a great book called Shine. He wrote Shine, and he talks about the
Okay.
10-year goal. The 10-year goal. So he goes out 10 years and then reverse engineers it. And weekly he goes through that 10-year goal. I think he goes through it almost daily. I'd have to reread the book again just to make sure. But I know that he goes through that 10-year goal often and reverse engineers it in his mind. Do you have any long-term legacy goals for you and your family?
I'm not as focused on an end point, I think, as I am on the process.
Hmm.
For me, it's about making sure that we're working towards something that we think is good. And for me, it's trying to build things that I think should exist. And that is not the easiest path. You've had guests on your show that's come out and said directly, "I don't build anything new. I do what works, and I do it over and over again." And good for them. I think that's great. If that's the formula to their success and building their legacy, that's fantastic. For me, it's this should exist. I will. It doesn't. I will go make it happen. And for me, that's the reward. Um, the fact that I'm responsible for a team of people I take very seriously. Um, that is, I think, the biggest burden on an entrepreneur, anybody that's running a small business, is the fact that you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for them too. And
Right.
that weighs, particularly at times when capital is not easily to come by. But I think at every stage of a company's growth, there's opportunity, and for me, that's the most important part.
Right. That is great. Great. So we'll finish off there, but I just want you to maybe give a little bit of a plug about Eli Report. Maybe share a little bit why it's so important for real estate agents, and then we'll go into speed round.
Let's talk about their return on life, right? I mean, they've got clients, they're buying, they're selling. We don't help with detached homes. There's just not the availability of documentation on them. But anytime there's a multifamily situation and you've got condo documents, strata documents, you're dealing with anywhere from 400 to 1,000 pages of minutes, bylaws, rules, depreciation reports, reserve studies,
Mhm.
warranty reports, goes on and on. It's a lot. Our tool takes that and distills it down to what matters, helps you get through that information and convey it succinctly, share it with your clients, add your comments, leverage your expertise. Doesn't relieve you from your responsibility to know what's in those documents, but it makes it so much quicker for you to do it. We'll take that 3-hour task down to a matter of minutes, and you'll look great. So that's why we built Eli Report. I think that the layers that we're going on to now to add value to those communities, I think, is even higher. We've started partnering with insurance companies who are saving these owners big money on one of the largest line items on their budget. And we're now starting to do that with others that serve all of these condo owners and communities. So there's my plug. I think it's a great tool for you, whether you're a buyer, a realtor, a property manager, or another stakeholder in that industry.
Right. I think you could have the tagline for the Eli Report as return on life.
For sure.
Awesome. Hey, subscribe button is below. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. So we're going to go into speed round. Speed round. Here we go. Are you ready, Thomas?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Text, email, face to face, or a phone call. What
Oh,
do you
you know
reckon?
what? I love email. I'm that old, but it doesn't work anymore. People get hit with too many emails. You've got to try and get them on the phone and eventually meet face to face for anything to happen. So while we're a remote team, we do everything digitally. I'm going to have to admit that email is not what it used to be. You got to connect with people.
Right on. Takeout, fine dining, Uber Eats, or a home cooked meal.
Oh, that's a tougher one than you'd think. My wife is an amazing cook. She's Persian, and I love Persian food. Very underrated. Um, but for my son's sake, it would be fine dining. He found that he's quite a foodie, and
Hmm.
he's really bought into those experiences.
At
And
11 years old, he's a foodie.
it was March of 2020, and I think, something was going down at that time. We were over in the UK, and everyone got the call to come home. Um, we ended up spending a week in Cornwall as we waited for our return flight, accelerated return flight to happen. And we ate at Outlaw's Kitchen, and my son became a foodie just like that. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Either a favorite band or favorite movie.
ooh, I love Shawshank Redemption, and I know too many people
Ooh,
do. So,
that
that
is good.
that's maybe a bit, but it's a great story.
That is a great movie. Yes.
Underdog, right?
You
Redemption,
betcha.
absolutely.
You betcha. Book, audio, or podcast.
Well, now it's all podcast. I told you I don't have the time to read the books. I used to listen to Audible on my way to and from work on a commute. I don't commute, so now I get podcasts. They're great.
Well, and there's so many great platforms now that actually summarize a book in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And, I've been doing some of that. It isn't the same, but, you get to read two or three books or listen to two or three summaries of books a day, which is pretty incredible. Last question. Last
Mm.
question. Bit of a trick one. If you were a scratch and sniff sticker, a scratch and
Mm.
sniff sticker, Thomas, and I rubbed your shoulder, what would I smell?
I'm hoping you would get some vanilla with coffee beans. There's something about
Mm,
that combination that um, it really hits. So,
that makes me warm in the heart. That certainly does.
yeah.
Yes. Thomas, you've been an awesome guest and you've brought so much value to our listeners talking about the Eli Report. You're an amazing individual, dynamic, and I so appreciate you being on our podcast, Return on Life podcast.
And Randy, thank you for making return on life a greater focus for us. I think that we do overlook it in our daily lives. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for joining me on the Return to Life podcast. I'm excited that you're here. I need you to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Comments, reviews, guests that you think should be on this would be so important for us. So we want to hear from you as well. And of course, we're on all the social platforms where we are always discussing everything that is about that ROL, return on life.